We're having a great time here at ISCO 2020. Yeah, we're just connecting up now with Philippe. He's actually in Japan. So hi there.
Hello, good morning.
And how's the typhoon? You were expecting a typhoon, weren't you there?
Yeah, we were lucky it passed a little bit further. So we are okay.
Fantastic.
It's raining, but it's still okay.
Fantastic. Here. Okay. So we're looking.
It's not like last week. Then we had a typhoon just over us. So this time it's
wow,
okay.
because we were wondering whether there'll be whistling noises, a wind going.
Yeah.
But we were lucky. Oh, that's really good. Okay, so let's get your slides up. I'm really looking forward to your presentation, Philippe, because you're going to be introducing us to Ampuku. So yeah, that's cool. Would you like me to move the slides for you? Are you okay moving them yourself?
Yeah, I think I can move them if I remember. Yeah. Yes, I think I remember how to do it.
Fantastic.
So, and yeah, the first slide, I thought I put just Japanese kanji. So people can see them, and then we will explain them. Okay. So there will be quite some information, also a lot of written material. Mm-hmm. It's not the idea that the people who follow read everything.
Okay, fine.
I suggest them to listen. At the end of the session, there will be a handout, and there will also be a link to a preview of my book.
Great. Okay, so we've got that already.
So don't worry if you don't catch everything. The written material exists, and we will provide it to you.
That's very relaxing to hear.
Yeah, because I can imagine. For the moment, I don't see the chat, so I think it's okay. Yeah. But if people have questions, they can ask me, and I'm most happy to answer any question if there is the time.
Yep, great. We'll mark the questions up for you. We've got someone looking after the chat at the moment, so don't worry about that. We'll feed you the questions as and when is the best time.
But I think there was a poll also to know.
Yes, there is definitely a poll, and I can launch that right now. It's a poll
people heard about Ampuku before.
Yeah, it was a poll to find out, do you use Ampuku in your work? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to share that now. So just to start off, do you use Ampuku in your work? That's treating the Hara directly. And we'll find out what the general view is of that. Let's have a look. Okay, so you've got about 2/3 to 1/3 split, I would say. About 2/3 people say yes, which I'm quite surprised about. That's quite high. And about a third of people say no. So,
okay, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So maybe we have all the Ampuku nerds with us.
Ampuku fans, yeah, right. Cool. Okay.
So maybe I can start with how I got interested in this.
I'd be fascinated to know. Yeah, how did you get into it?
My Shiatsu teachers, they were talking about Ampuku. Mm-hmm. And actually the main thing we saw was like a wave movement you make on the Hara. Oh, yeah. And that was called the Ampuku technique. And I was very curious about it because we learned the Hara diagnosis. Yeah. And I wanted to know more techniques on the belly because it is said that the Hara or the belly is the main energetic center in our body. True. So I was very surprised during the education I had that we learned one technique on the belly. Of course, we learned the trajectory of all the classical and the Zen meridians in the Hara. and also the points of the extraordinary vessels who pass in the Hara, who are in that area. But I was like interested to know more techniques in that area. I had some feeling, some idea that that there would be more than just the diagnosis and just the trajectory of the classical Zen and extraordinary vessels. So actually it took me quite some time to find out more techniques on the belly. And it was actually through Chinesang. So I spent quite some time in Thailand.
Oh, really? Oh, right.
Studied with people who master that art.
Yes.
And there I got introduced to really working and freeing the organs. So really coming in contact with the organs.
Yes.
And that opened up a whole new world and made also the treatments more effective.
Right, okay. Yeah.
It's like by working deep on the organ level, the whole meridian work got more integrated, if you can say.
Yes,
so.
Of course, because I mean, obviously the pathways, the connective tissue pathways, the facial pathways run from the channels into the organs. But quite often we do rely a lot in Shiatsu technique to working the distally, don't we, at a distance from the actual core organs there. So that's really interesting.
So Chinesang helped me to work directly on the organ in combination with meridian work.
Really?
And because after all, my base is in Shiatsu, so I love to work on the meridians, and I feel very happy to do that. It's a way of working that I like a lot. And then when I was back in Europe, I was lucky to be part of a school where we had many osteopaths who were working.
Oh, okay.
And one osteopath, she was working with Chinesang, but introduced me to the visceral work.
Oh, okay.
More the work from Jean-Pierre Barral and other osteopaths who go to the movement of the organ, the motility and the mobility of the organ.
Okay.
And that opened up a whole other world. So, but always related with the Hara, with the Ampuku work somehow. But of course, it had another name. It's maybe visceral manipulation in the case of osteopathy, or it has the name of Chinesang if it's more from the Chinese, Thai people one learns. So it's only later when I came to Japan that I discovered more the Ampuku work somehow. And also the classics. I have been reading about them, like in the books from Masunaga. He introduced the Ampuku Zukai. So maybe I can go to the next slide.
Sure.
So there are two major books written and published in the late Edo periods.
Yeah.
And that's the ones that still body workers here in Japan refer to.
Yeah.
And that's also the books that Masunaga referred to, and other teachers. I think also Onoda and many other teachers, Japanese teachers, refer to to those books. And I found some translations, but only partially they were translated.
Right.
The Ampuku Zukai, and very, very brief, very. I didn't know what really to do with those translations.
No.
So it's only when I really got the actual books.
Yeah.
In Japanese, of course. That I further went on my investigation, and I looked for people who could translate them, because it's an old language. It's still from the Edo period. It's still the period Japan was closed for several hundred years. So it's the end of that period somehow.
Yeah.
And both of those books are illustrated books, very beautiful illustrated books. So in the further slides we will see some of them. And I think in
sorry. I thought that was a prompt for me to move the slide. Sorry,
a little bit further.
Go on.
It's okay. You're curious.
I want to know what's next. Yeah. Yeah, go on.
I'm building up.
Yeah, building up tension. Can you just tell me what those words mean? The Zukai and the Tebiki. What does that actually mean?
Yeah. So that's an extra.
Oh, right, it is right.
Okay. So the Ampuku Zukai. Maybe I can show. This is a later edition. Yeah. It's an edition of the 70s.
Oh, wow.
Actually, it's Masunaga who did this translation.
Wow, amazing! I didn't know that.
I say translation. It's like actually, it's not correct. It's a later publication.
I didn't know that. Wow.
So he did that because he was very interested in that. And in his book about Oriental medicine, who is unfortunately only translated in French and Italian, I guess. So for me, it's because I also speak French and reads French. So there he has page after page that he talks about Ampuku Zukai.
Right, interesting.
So I got very interested. So maybe we can look at, so the first kanji, the first character in Ampuku. So it's, if you take the character alone, you will see the translation is an. So A-N.
Yeah.
So it means holding, considering, and investigating. Or sometimes it's also translated, I think Masunaga translated as holding the hand still. And he says that this is like the base of Shiatsu, because the man who wrote this book, Ota Shinsai, he talks about pressure and holding pressure, and that's actually the base from what became later Shiatsu. So it's holding the hand still, applying pressure, but it also means investigating and considering. So then, if you have the title Ampuku Zukai, then the second character, the second symbol, if you can call it like that, it's Fuku. And actually Fuku, it's abdomen, Hara, belly. Or also sometimes it means stomach. Maybe some of you have already heard about Fukushin. So that's Hara diagnosis. Mostly in Shiatsu we call it Hara diagnosis. In herbal medicine, Kampo, here in Japan, more often they call it Fukushin. Okay, so but Fuku means Hara. So when you separate this two kanjin, so one means ana, the first one means an, and the second one fuku. But if you put them together, the sound is actually ampuku.
Okay, right.
And that's more the way to pronounce it.
I see, okay.
Sometimes it gets translated Ampuku, Ampuku. I choose for Ampuku. But both are right. Because if I ask my wife, she always says, this one is right, the first slide.
Yeah.
Then how we translate it, that's up to us because it's translation. So we call it Ampuku. But, so there are two books. Actually, the first one, it's very clear. So the Ampuku Zukai, in the title itself, it says the Ampuku Illustrated Book.
I see. Okay.
Because illustrated, because there are many illustrations in it. Okay. And then we have the second book. So the first one is from 1827. And then we have the second one. This is also a later edition. But the nice thing about this later edition,
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm just, if you don't mind, I'm just gonna make that a bit bigger so that we can see. Yeah.
The nice thing about this later translation is that they have done it the old way. So I will try to show you. So the pages are folded, as you see.
Oh wow!
That's the old way of doing it, and they bind it together because the book is the pages are printed one side of the page, and then they fold it, and that's how old Japanese books. Many of the old Japanese books from the Edo period, they look like that. Wow. So it's one side who is printed, because there you have the imprint from the wood block.
Yes.
So it's carved into the wood and then printed.
Amazing.
And because they cannot print on both sides, because it would come, the ink would come through, because the pages are very thin.
Yeah.
It's very thin Japanese paper. So that's why they do it. They print it both sides on one page, and then they fold it and bind it together.
Amazing.
So that's the Amatebiki is the second one.
Yeah.
And that book is written earlier, but published in 1835.
Right. And are they still in print in Japan, Philippe?
Yeah, you can still buy them on Amazon.
Really? Wow. Yeah.
And you can buy them. I don't think this one, because this is a facsimile print.
Yeah.
So this one is more rare. But sometimes you can also buy the original first print. Wow. So it's wonderful to. There are not so many. You can imagine after 200 years.
Yeah. Wow.
And the long history in Japan. I managed to find some of them, and I was given some of them. This is like the first page of the first print, and this is from 1827. You can see on the outside that it's a book who has lived, and in the inside, even sometime between the pages, you find some dirt.
Whoa. Or
some. You can feel all the practitioners who have come before us, who have been reading in them. And in the typical fashion in Japan, they have been noting things in it, mostly in red. They do. It's very typical. And when you see the old Edo books, they put some side notes, and mostly in red, and put other kanji on it. It's very touching to be able to hold such an old book. It's really such a history who is in it.
Yeah.
So then, okay, I had the books, but then I had to find the translation. Luckily, my wife is Japanese, so she could help me some way.
Oh, right.
But for the old language, we had to go and look for really specialists.
Right.
There are some prints now who are translated from the old Japanese into modern Japanese, because the language has been reformed over history.
Yeah.
And modern people cannot necessarily read the old language.
No.
So I guess it's the same for you who are English speakers.
Yeah.
If you read Shakespeare or
just about read
or
Shakespeare.
more older books.
You can still just about read it, but it does sound a bit funny in modern terms, yeah.
Yeah, or maybe the older books.
The very old ones, yeah.
So then you need some help of specialists to really understand the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the book is written by Shinsai, or I should say Ota Shinsai, and it's a manual who was intended for everyone.
Yeah,
so it's not for, like he says, it's not for noble families. And it's written in a simple way for that time. I was very surprised because I learned a lot about many things I didn't know about old books, that there were so many books printed in that time, that the Japanese have a long history of literacy.
Yeah.
And that a big part of population really could read books and were buying books.
Wow.
And that books were not necessarily so expensive.
No.
Of course, the more exclusive books and in colors and whatever were more expensive. But this book, for example, the Ampuku Zukai, was more intended for everyone. So also the techniques are quite simple, but there is a great depth in them. So it's, one could think, yeah, this looks very easy. You just press along the stomach meridian and do this or that. But if you really go into it, you can see that there is really a lot that needs to be unpacked. It's not only the language.
Yeah.
It's also the way it's used, which symbols, because that was another challenge we had. Some of the point names, and there were, of course, no numbers. So it's just the Japanese names.
Yeah.
But some of the names are the old names, so because they also have been adapted, or sometimes many different names have been used over time. Yeah. That's something that is known also in Chinese characters. When you look at the point names, there are many different possibilities and many different namings. So it took me 5 years to go through this book.
Wow.
And it was very interesting because in these times now that we live with internet and like the thing we are doing today now, it's very interesting to have this perspective of a book who was printed so long ago.
Yes.
That people were probably reading under candlelight.
Yes.
And you can imagine they were very different.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, the times were very different. But when you read the story of the book, like when he says about the salve Ampuku, how you can apply the salve Ampuku after a long day's work and when you have been drinking too much or eating too much or being too much in your head. So Actually, they were not so different. So they had their challenges. They had maybe wars or famine or other challenges.
Yeah.
But somehow, when you read the text, you see those people were in a different time, but not so different from us.
No.
So,
amazing.
So yeah, I think I go a little bit further away. Far much too
much.
too much text I have put. I should have listened to you, but I just want to tell one thing about this, that he talks about the main thing in his work and the main thing in working in Ampuku is to free the stagnation.
Right.
So all illness, and that's actually the thing who always comes back in his book, is that energy doesn't flow, vitality disappears because the energy doesn't flow.
Yeah.
And the techniques are very simple. We apply pressure, we are kneading, we are stroking the body, and the aim is to free the channels, free the points, creating balance. So the basic stuff is very similar.
Absolutely, and I think that's the great strength of bodywork. I mean, bodywork is just the best thing for that. I think, you know, all the modalities, energy-based bodywork is terrific for that. Yeah.
And that's also one thing he repeats over and over in the book.
Yeah.
So he wrote a book for everyone.
Yeah.
But he says, okay, if you want to become a practitioner, you really need to have a throughout very deep training, and that it cannot be transmitted through text. So he writes a book, but at the same time he warns that, okay, you have to find a teacher who can apply those techniques, because we can imagine how it can be, but you need an experienced teacher. I show these pages. These are 2 pages of our book, 2 pages of the translation of the Ampuku Zukai. So we translated the whole book. But here, at the beginning of the book, you see in the translation, this is techniques in the prone position.
Yeah.
So the practitioner is working on the back. And that's one thing that I wanted to show, because often I have heard, and I thought myself, Ampuku, okay, you work on the Hara, and that's what you do. So it was a very big surprise for me that a big part of the book, actually, of the Ampuku Zukai, is about working on the back, working on the shoulders, working on the arms, working side position.
Wow.
And then we have also the 13 Ampuku techniques who are described in the Ampuku Zukai.
Okay.
And their importance is shown because every technique gets one illustration.
Right.
Here we see the prone position, we get 2 illustrations. And then it's a lot of text, press this point, apply pressure there. The main thing is working along the bladder meridian. Actually, many things we know about from our Shiatsu, when we work the back, that we see in all Shiatsu schools, and who always comes back. I wanted to show one more thing, because through my research I found that there are actually different editions of the early books. So you have the first edition, who is from 1827, and the second edition from 1887, and that's actually the one that Masunaga uses. He uses the one from 1887, because you will see that the kanji in the characters, they are separated. On the 1827 edition, There it's more fluent style. It's a bigger challenge to read.
Yes.
So, but that's not the only difference. And that's why for my research, I found it was important to go back to the first edition. So, because when we see the illustrations also, the illustrations have been rendered. We are 70 years later.
Yes.
We are in a different period. Japan is open. And they make a second edition and they redraw the images.
Mm.
And there are some differences.
There are.
Maybe I'll let the people look to find some of the differences. But the main difference I can reveal is that the right hand of the practitioner on the top picture is open.
Yeah.
And on the lower picture, the hand is closed.
Yeah.
So, and that's quite important. You will see later some techniques where we really work with the index finger and the thumb. So that was a technique that I was not aware of before, that I only found out later here how to use with practitioners here in Japan, people who work with those techniques. So there is quite a difference if you work with the palm, with the hand closed, or with this technique.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not dramatic. You still can give good treatments with the hand closed, but at the same time, I wanted to have the exact first techniques that Ota Shinsai
Definitely
wanted to transfer to us.
Yeah.
Okay. Then very interesting when we see this image. This is the same illustrator. It's Murata Kagen, because Shinsai Ota, he wrote a book. The illustrations were done by a famous artist, so it's very artistic done.
Yeah.
And this is a later book that he illustrated, where you see a father who is reading a book and instructing his daughter on how to apply a technique. You can see with his hand, he's reading the book.
Yes.
With the other hand, he's showing his daughter, you should press like this. And then the daughter is working probably along one of the points in the legs.
Yes, great. It's a lovely picture, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very beautiful. So I thought I wanted to show you.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Because it's 3 years after the Ampuku Zukai has been published. So it's the same illustrator. So probably he knows the Ampuku Zukai.
Mm-hmm.
And we can imagine, I'm not sure about it because we cannot read the characters are very unclear of the book that the father is reading. They are just very lightly rendered.
Mm.
So, but I like to imagine he's reading the Ampuku Zukai, and he's instructing his daughter how to do this.
Yep.
And that was how Ota Shinsai intended it.
Yeah.
Really, he had lots of benefits from the receiving Ampuku and giving himself Ampuku, discovering Ampuku. Because when he was around his 30s, he describes how he got very sick.
Uh-huh.
And Ampuku saved him. So he describes it's very poetic. It's very beautiful to read the real Edo period description of how he almost went for the flesh or to the flesh. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very from another time description, we could say somehow, but very touching, very beautiful rendered somehow.
Yeah.
And that's something we try to preserve in our translation, to really keep this feel of the old language, at the same time that it's clear also to show what they really are doing. And I have one chapter in the book where I describe it more in my way. And so every technique, so we have the translation, but next to it, we have a chapter where I describe it more, how to say that, straightforward, less poetic, we could say.
Yeah.
Because we talk in a different way than the people in the Edo period who had to have a lot of respect in their language, and more poetic language. So here we see two techniques, and I told there are 13 techniques on the Hara.
Yeah.
13 specific Ampuku techniques. And here there are two, and number 10 and number 11. It's a lot working down, bringing the energy down. And often he describes that illness happens because you have the rebellious chi who moves upwards. Like when he describes about the stomach meridian, often he works down, also in synchronized with out breaths, to really bring the energy down. And a beautiful thing I found, and by reading the book, was discovering that they really took their time. So they repeat one technique maybe 20, 30 times.
Wow, okay.
So
that's worth knowing.
Really to bring the energy down.
Yeah.
And that's really one of the things that I discovered with this work, and also with the practitioners here. They have the patience to stay with one technique and really, in an unhurried way, to repeat technique many, many times. Because I can talk for myself. Sometimes at the beginning when I learned Shiatsu, okay, now I do the liver meridian, and then I will do the kidney, and then afterwards I will do this technique. Here it's we could call it like an invitation to stillness, and to really go for one technique, to repeat it many times and to see the effects. And that's a thing I have found in other books from the same time, that they really stressed, for example, that one would have daily treatments, and that the treatments should be repeated over and over again. And it's the same thing for the self-treatments. That it's not enough to go one time for a treatment. Oh, I feel nice, I'm relaxed. But really, if you want to shift the energy, if you really want to make a deep effect on the body, that one should see it over a longer period of time. So
talking of that, a lot of people in the chat are saying that they would really like to either feel it or see it actually done. I know you have got some practical work planned, but just to remind you that
we can show them ourselves, and then I have planned some self-ampuku. I don't know how much time I have.
It's 5:02 now, so you've got 20 minutes left now.
Okay, oh my God.
20 minutes, you see. So everyone on the chat wanted to do something.
Can we not continue?
Yeah, that's right. Just scrap the rest of the presentation. We can just talk all day about Ampuku. I wouldn't
Can you
mind.
do a poll about that?
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I can show a little bit further. So this is Ampuku Amatebiki.
Yeah.
So actually, although it's called Amatebiki, actually a big part of the book, I will go faster. It's about Fukushin. So Hara diagnosis. There are many examples of Hara diagnosis. I like these images, and also the Hara of tension, the Hara of torment.
Hara of torment. I love that.
Yes, so there's a lot to unpack there. So, okay. Luckily, the book is coming soon.
Yeah, we're all waiting for it. I think you're going to sell 100 copies just like that now.
Okay. So then in the Fukushin from the Amatebiki. So actually, the thing that he talks a lot about is the shaku and the yu, or the shakuju. So it's something who goes back to the Nanjing, to the 55th difficult issue. So that addresses distinguishes the shaku and the ju. So actually we can translate it concentrations and gatherings in the body. And one is seen as yin and the other is seen as yang.
Accumulations and
but
concentrations.
actually, I don't want to stress through this, but this would take us too far. But then we have the Fukushin of the Ampuku Zukai. There he has 5 different differentiations. So Jitsu, Kyo, palpitations in the Hara. He puts a lot of emphasis on that. Tensions in the Hara and lumps in the Hara. And there you have lumps from water, chi, blood. So he goes, he deepens that understanding. So I find it very interesting to have that part also. I thought to deepen that also, but if you don't mind, we go to the self-ampuku.
Yeah.
I think that will be more interesting.
I tell you what, Philip, when you do publish your book, you'll have to come back to us and we'll do you a special Tuesday webinar and we'll spend a whole hour on it.
Okay.
Promoting your book. Just remind us when you do that. I'd love to do that. That would be a great idea. We tend to have webinars every Tuesday, so
okay.
That'd be great.
It will be my pleasure. So the book will come in a few weeks' time. We have had, I mean, the book is already ready since May.
Yeah.
But with
we'll try and schedule you in as soon as we get a free Tuesday, and then that'd be great. As soon as it's ready.
So, because of my inability to leave Japan,
oh yeah, of course.
I had already twice that I would be in Belgium, and I had to stay in Japan. I don't mind. I like it here, but for the book, it made that we are a little bit running late. It's already ready some time, but we have to print it and all such things. So, I will not continue too much. Okay. Maybe I just tell that in the book, because we have the translations, I wanted to also show the people all the points that are named in those 2 books. And so I used another book from the same time, also from the late Edo period. And there I go in greater depth in all the points who are used in the Ampuku.
Looks amazing.
Yes.
I know Dinah from our team has been helping you with the editing, and she's been raving about it. She's been really enjoying helping you, Dinah from our team, with the editing.
Thank you so much, Dinah.
She is a great editor, I have to say. She is the best. Yeah.
So here we come to the self-ampuku.
Oh, great.
That's the part in the book that I really love.
Yeah.
And I must tell the translation that I made is the first volume.
Mm-hmm.
The second volume, there I will bring together the techniques from the ancient book together with the visceral work, the inner pathways of the meridians, and how I use it in my practice.
Mm.
And the self Ampuku is very interesting because as a practitioner, we can treat ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we can do great work because many things we can address through the Hara.
Yeah.
Okay, I love the techniques on the neck. I love the techniques in the arms. I love the techniques in the legs, in the hips.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to really go deep into the Hara, it's very, very important. And I can give one example. In the beginning of this summer, I had a bicycle accident.
Yeah.
So I really got hurt and I was thrown on a rock. So my face was completely open. And the first thing I could feel was a trauma in the neck. So I had a whiplash in the neck.
Oh.
But the main thing I could feel was actually the solar plexus.
Yeah.
And also the lower back and the koshi, the lower back. So that was touched. So that were the main areas that needed to be addressed. So I got great help from great practitioners here. When they bring me to the hospital, they straight gave me kampo, so the herbal medicine here in Japan. So, but what helped me a lot was just working the stomach meridian in the solar plexus and going into the tissues.
Yeah.
And at that moment, I could feel that my neck, the whiplash in the neck, was really releasing.
Mm.
And then the trajectory on the conception vessel, the points above the navel, who are in some systems related with the upper thoracics and the cervicals.
Yeah.
So really working those points on oneself in a very simple way, just having a light contact on them and slowly sinking in and taking contact with those tissues, you really can feel the whole connection to the neck, also the vagus nerve, everything like that.
That's very much connected with the vagal nerve, isn't it? It connects with
Absolutely.
The yeah, brilliant.
So actually this experience really convinced me to really go deeper into that, because one of the things I had sometimes quite some success was like whiplash problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
And working the triple heater, gallbladder, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But being able to work directly on the Hara, and that's the case for all problems in the back, all problems in the neck. Really, if you can address through Ampuku work, the whole thing, it really helps a lot. Huh? Tell me, Cliff, how much time I have still?
You've got 10 minutes left now.
10 minutes. Okay, we go for it. Okay.
You did some practical work?
I stopped talking. You tell me.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to stop the slides now.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm going to join in. So anyone at home wants to join in, do some, yeah, that's a good view.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So when the 10 minutes are over, in the last minute, you tell me.
Yeah, let's do some 10 minutes of practical.
Okay. So the thing I like to do is to settle.
Just speak nice and loudly.
Yeah. So I have the microphone here. You hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, like it's written in the Ampuku Zukai, the first thing is to settle the breathing. So if we unpack the Ampuku Zukai, we can put both hands in the lower belly. So close to the hips, you put your hands there. Then we take a deep breath under our hands. So expand the lower belly. You hold the breath for a few moments and then breathe out. And then once more breathe out, breathe in through the nose. So I can tell you, you can do this exercise sitting or laying down like I do. So when you breathe in, you hold the breath and then slowly breathe out. If you want to make a sound when you breathe out, feel free to make a sound, letting go of all the tensions. Last time, deep breaths under your hands. And then breathe out. And we can put our hands over the navel. Take a deep breath under your hands. Your attention is under the hands. And then breathe out. Can do one more time. Breathe in under your hands. Expand the belly. Hold the breath. And then slowly breathe out. Then we can move our hands to the upper belly, just under the rib cage. This time when we breathe in under our hands. Hold your breath. And slowly breathe out. So you can do it a few times in your own rhythm. And we can move the hands on the lower part of the rib cage. And here we take a deep breath under our hands. We expand the lower part of the rib cage. Hold the breath and slowly breathe out. Then we can move our hands just on the upper part of the rib cage, just under the collarbones. We can cross the arms, that can be easier. So you put your hands on the upper part of the rib cage. Take a deep breath in that area. Hold the breath and slowly breathe out. Then we can cross the arms and we put our hands on the sides of the rib cage, close to the armpits. This time when we breathe in towards the sides, towards our hands. So you expand the rib cage towards the side, hold the breath, and slowly breathe out. Let go of the tensions. One more time. Then we can move our hands to the lower part of the rib cage on the sides. And last time, deep breath. Then we move our hands back to the lower belly. We do one more time, deep breath under the hands. Breathe in, hold your breath. And slowly breathe out. So then we can bring the middle finger towards the navel. So you feel your navel. And then you glide 2 units towards the side. 2 kun towards the side. There we have stomach 25. Central pivot. Point who is connected to the Big Dipper. Very central in the skies, in the macrocosm, but also very central points in the body. Very light contact with the middle finger. With stomach 25. Then we can glide our hands upward along the stomach meridian until we reach the ribs, just under the ribs. Stomach 19. There you make a light contact again. And when I was talking about the neck, the shoulders, this is really a point who give access to relax the vagal nerve, the tissues inside the rib cage towards the clavicula, the whole way to stomach 12, stomach 4, the beginning of the stomach meridian. So if you feel you want to apply more pressure, you can come deeper into the points. Maybe you can move very light from left to right along the edge of the rib cage. Open up these points. Or maybe you want to stretch downwards. So you hold the point, and in the point, while you have a contact, maybe you stretch downwards. Like if I do this now, I feel a connection with the sternum, my sternum tension, who can release. But maybe you feel it to another part of your body. It can even be that you feel it towards the hips. And then we can glide from stomach 19 back towards stomach 25. You can do it a few times. Very light stroking from stomach 19 towards stomach 25 in a very gentle way. So if you have more time, you can do it more. So now we don't have so much time, so we will end here holding stomach 25. And then we can put our hands in front of the navel. And to end our treatment, we can take a deep breath under our hands. Hold the breath. Smile to yourself. And slowly breathe out. Then we can make a spiral around the navel, clockwise, to collect all the energy towards the navel. Smile to yourself. And then we can slowly open the eyes, can stretch the body. And we do one last exercise. We put up the arms and the legs and we can shake them, stimulate the lymph system. And to really stimulate the stomach, the Hara, we can laugh into the Hara. Feel deep breaths. Oh. Okay. Okay, I'm almost ready to go to bed.
What time is it for you there?
I think it's 6 o'clock
in the evening.
Evening.
Yeah. Oh, right. Oh, very different. Very different.
So I created some space for lunch.
Yes.
I
just want to say a massive thank you. That was a revelation for me. I mean, I have actually developed quite a lot of techniques on my own, working the organs, you know, for digestive problems, just through my own experiment. But I've never had such a strong experience with the actual connective tissue pathways and the specific points. It was a revelation and something I'd really like to develop in my own work. So, and I'm sure a lot of people will be agreeing me with that. It was really, really good. And we're definitely going to have this guy back on one of our Tuesdays, our regular Tuesday webinars in the future, as soon as that book's out. Yeah, so sorry we've run out of time. Thank you so much for your
thank you very much.
Your presentation. I believe we've got a handout for you, haven't we?
Yeah, we have a handout and there is a link also. So
yes, I'll give you the handout. This is the handout. I'll just clear Suzanne's out of the way. And I'm going to also share the link to Philippe's website, which will be a featured action. So you can click onto that and you'll go straight to his, yeah. Okay, goodbye. And thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. It was brilliant.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, wow, what a revelation that was. It was absolutely amazing. It's just opened a completely new world for me.